a production of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. Visit us at mesachamber.org.
First of all, I'm Todd Harmio. I'm with AMR. I'm one of the co-chairs here with Sherry and part of the team with Sally, and we are part of the Mesa Chamber. Obviously, appreciate the opportunity to be part of this group as well as the Mesa Chamber on the go forward. So thank you very much, and we'll work through this agenda. Up first, it appears we have a little bit of update presentation on the trafficking aspect from Sergeant Nate Bolter. So I will turn it over to you.
Morning, everybody. I am actually very shocked that none of you guys brought up Wallace and Ladmo. So that is like the oldest Arizona deal right there. So shocked.
Not everybody's from Arizona, Nate.
That's true.
I'm a native Arizona, and I was on Wallace and Ladmo when I was a young girl. I was a Girl Scout, and I received a Ladmo bag. Yay!
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Dang. That's what we like to hear. Awesome. Wallace and Ladmo, man.
So I've been with the police department for just over 22 years now. The human trafficking has been a passion of mine since I got into law enforcement back in '99. In 2003, I had the great opportunity to be a part of moving Arizona's revised statutes to adding mandatory incarceration time so that we could stop kind of the revolving door that we had going on back then. And then back in 2016, I was able to assemble a committee with the city, and we were able to add the escorting without a license ordinances to the Mesa City codes. And I was one of the principals in charge of starting the human exploitation and trafficking team. And it's been a privilege of mine for almost the last year to come back now as a supervisor and run that team. So if any of you guys have any questions during this, please let me know. But for the human trafficking front, this is a very, very exciting year for Arizona. As many of you guys know, that next year in February, we will be hosting the Super Bowl. And so as an entire valley, we actually have kind of joined as a kind of an ad hoc task force and have been doing operations together since October, trying to prepare and get ready for that major event. The venue here in Arizona is very unique on a national front because we have the Barrett-Jackson Car Show, we have the Waste Management Open, and the Super Bowl all stacked right on top of each other next year. So as many of you guys who have been involved with the human trafficking element know that when big money comes, girls will also come into town, and traffickers will bring girls to move them and make money. So for us as a valley, it's been very, very important that we get out ahead of that. We've been doing a lot of the training. Mesa has done a huge amount of training for the other agencies. We put on vice and decoy schools. We put on a major surveillance class where we just brought over 40 detectives and officers from other agencies to learn how to do that with vice operations. And we'll continue that as we continue to get closer to the events. And we've also brought on awesome federal partners through the FBI, Homeland Security, and using their resources as well to hopefully combat and mitigate a lot of the things that are going to be coming with the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, here in Mesa, we do have a human trafficking problem. Last year, an independent firm, and I forget the name of the company, ended up doing a survey of the 800 citizens in Mesa at random, and they said, hey, what are your top 3 priorities for the citizens of Mesa? And number 2 was human trafficking. And so what our team basically focuses on is the human exploitation part of it towards the sex trafficking. We don't get a ton into the labor trafficking. Ours is more of the prostitution, the minor sex trafficking, which is a huge part of what we do. And then also we are bringing on the back part of that, a huge diversion program that we're actually working with the Mesa City Court now to try to divert in a positive manner people who are involved in the life and try to get them out of that and get them away from having to do time in jail and be able to hopefully get them the counseling and other stuff like that that they may need to successfully get out of that lifestyle. Another big thing, and just a shout out to EVIT, this Saturday we are actually doing a drop-in center So if you have anybody that possibly might need some resources, we have about 30 or 40 vendors that are coming over to EVIT with us, and that's the West Main Street campus. But from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. on this Saturday, this drop-in center will host medical, counseling, physical resources like clothing and food and things like that, as well as job assistance and placement, housing assistance to get people out of this life. So if you do work with any counselors, send that word out. That is going to be a huge opportunity this week that we have a bunch of people coming together for. So just want to kind of lay out some of the foundation of where we are at right now. So as we move forward throughout this year, Mesa has had, again, that we do have a human trafficking element issue here, and we have it kind of on several different fronts. With Mesa, the vast majority of what we see is online sex trafficking. The other major component is our IMBs, or illicit massage businesses. And Mesa has one of the most aggressive illicit massage business city codes. And that has started to make a big impact in that industry here in Mesa. We actually, yes, Chris, I will actually get to the proactive education here in just a bit. Thank you for bringing that up. So with our city code for the trafficking, we actually, with our massage businesses, we've actually shut 3 businesses down. And one of the biggest kind of shock factors that we've had come out is the, if we go in and shut a business down, we can actually close that business, and the owners of that property cannot use that suite for up to 2 years. So there are huge financial consequences going back to the owners who are constantly renting out these businesses to shady business people, and allowing that activity to happen. And so to get proactive on that, because again, it is difficult, we've actually started going through the abatement process as well, notifying our city owners of alleged crimes that are possibly happening in their businesses so they can shut those down prior to us getting to the point where we end up coming in and seizing properties and stopping them from being able to use that property for up to 2 years. So that has been super successful. And like I said, just in this last year, we have had 3 businesses that have resulted in asset forfeiture seizures because of the fact that there were shady human trafficking and very shady financial issues going on in those businesses. So that is huge. And again, Mesa Police Department has been very proactive in that and trying to get that shut down as quickly as we can. Because as many of you know, we have a plethora of massage businesses in the city of Mesa. So we try to be very proactive on that. In the chat, Carissa Schwartz had asked that we talk about proactive education that we're doing. So we have some amazing community partners that we work with, our non-governmental organizations. AATN, which is the Arizona Anti-Trafficking Network, is one of the largest ones that our entire valley works with. And under the AATN umbrella, we have a group called Trust, which is Training Resources United to Stop Trafficking. And so throughout this last year, we actually started an initiative with the Mesa Public Schools, and Al Moore there has been a huge advocate there. And so we have actually been teaching all of the Mesa Public School staff about human trafficking. Just from a couple of those council sessions that we've had, or teaching sessions we've had with them, we have actually received multiple cases where we've been able to get children out of some of the bad families and things have been going on because of the human trafficking element that the parents have chosen to participate in their lives. Also, we have done numerous outreach meetings with communities. Eastmark was one of them. We had an NGO that probably had good intentions, but decided to use fear as a motivating factor to try to get people to donate money to them, and actually spun up a whole bunch of fear, and that this beautiful neighborhood in Eastmark, that people all of a sudden were scared to death that their kids were getting abducted left and right when it wasn't happening at all. So again, we had a big community meeting with them, and actually were able to settle those fears by showing some of the crime stats and some of the things that we've been doing proactively in that area. So that was really good. And then as far as the kids themselves, we have worked with, like I said, Trust is one of our big partners for the education, but going to schools, and we hand out flyers, we've set up booths at different times, and we also sit down and talk to kids on a kid-friendly level about what trafficking is, because trafficking is not kidnappings and abducting anymore. Our traffickers are smart, they're patient, and therefore they will sit back and they will groom children and eventually get them to the point where the children will willfully choose to leave their home. And unfortunately, most of our kids end up in California, and we end up having a big interstate deal where getting the kid back to Arizona and off of the horrendous tracks and things of that happen out in California. So our kids are a huge part of what we do, and again, a very important part of the educational process, because they are our traffickers' targets. So, and unfortunately, most of our kids, by the age of 11 to 13 years of age, they are already having contact with traffickers and have been introduced to this. So, so Mark Young asked, do we have a correlation between aging out, foster youth, and trafficking? So yes and no. The reality is that a lot of people look at kind of the marginalized, or what people used to consider the throwaway kids, right? The state foster kids, as these are our target audiences. Unfortunately, when it comes to trafficking, there is no immune neighborhood, there's no immune social class or even race in this. We've had kids, one of the kids that we recovered the last few months ago was a straight A student out of a Chandler school. She played soccer, had mom and dad are very well off, had no reason to get involved in this business. And the girl decided that she wanted to get involved. The trafficker did a very good job grooming her. And he ended up getting her a bus pass, got over to California, and she ended up calling grandma at 3 o'clock in the morning, scared to death, and saying, I don't know where I'm at. They kicked me out. I was naked outside last night for an entire night. You've got to come find me. And so again, it's not just the foster kids or anybody. It literally goes across all aspects, because the traffickers are such good master manipulators. They are able to just convince these kids that this is what they want to do. They're loyal to them, and that's how they kind of push that mental, thing until they get their hooks in them. And then once they do, obviously the script can flip on them, and they say, hey, if you don't do this, then we're going to go back. We'll find your little sister. We're going to make her do this, or, hey, we're going to go back. We're going to terrorize your mom and dad. And again, not a lot of these kids come from hardcore families or anything like that. So that puts a lot of fear in kids, and especially, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids trying to protect their own family after they've seen that some of the bad things have happened. They don't want that happening to anybody else in their family. And then as far as actually aging out of the system, that is kind of one gray area. We have a couple resources here in Mesa, but the 18 to 24 year age bracket is kind of difficult, because once somebody does age out of the system, for youth, we have a ton of resources. But once you become that 18 and 24-year-old age range, you sometimes will actually get lost in the system, and you can actually, there aren't as many resources for you. You find yourself kind of on your own for the very first time in your life, and whether or not you have a drug addiction or whatever choices you've made that have gotten you into this, you don't have those immediate resources available to you, or at least at that age, you find that as many kids that even graduating college find that even though they thought they knew everything in college, they actually have no life experience, and coming out to the real world is a big shock. So I visit reflexology studios. How is the layperson able to tell what kind of shop is sex trafficking or illicit? So that is coming from Lori. Lori, just so you know, if you walk into any facility in the city of Mesa and say, hey, I'd like a massage, and they say that they only service men, or that they can't get to you because they're too busy and you go back again and they can't get back to you. If it is a men only establishment, it is probably an illicit massage business. As far as reflexology and stuff, they were using that loophole for a while because they don't have to have the same certifications or accreditations as massage businesses do. But our new city code has actually looped them in. And so they fall under the same massage business or illicit business ordinances. So, but like I said, the biggest telltale sign is if you go in and you say, hey, I'd like a massage, and they say, oh, we only service men, that's probably a dirty business. So, because women aren't typically our highlighted market there. And then Carissa asked, what are statistics of how many kids are targeted and taken? So that's a difficult question because, again, a lot of this is, especially in the last 2 years, has pushed to online venues. So actually finding out how many kids are targeted or how many kids are taken, I would say 100% of kids out there are targeted. It just depends on the choices that they make because, again, these traffickers come into these chat rooms and social media points. And honestly, if there is a chat function anywhere, there is the opportunity for traffickers. And that is even, Reddit, Xbox, PlayStation. If there's chat features, there's the ability for traffickers to reach our children. And so that's why it's very, very important for parents to be as educated as possible and to talk to their kids. A lot of people say, well, I don't really want to talk about that type of stuff with my kids because it's embarrassing or it's difficult. I find personally that the best plan of attack for this is being offensive and educating your kids. So that way they recognize what's going on before they get too deep into it and they realize that, hey, there's a problem. Also, parents really, really, really need to be involved in what it is that their kids are seeing and what websites they're on, what apps they're using. Even like Snapchat, for example, which is a huge presence in the trafficking community. A lot of kids don't ghost themselves on that. And I don't know how many of you guys have Snapchat or even know what ghosting is, but if you don't ghost yourself or turn off your location services, I can go in there as a friend of yours, pinch the screen, and it will literally tell me what part of the house that you're in inside your home. The GPS tracking on that is phenomenal. So these guys know where they're at. We have kids who will be chatting and having innocent conversations, and we've had traffickers actually show up at the locations of where they're at. And because, again, they share too much information, or they'll show pictures of them at high school or their school uniforms, or, we had a girl that was a beautiful young girl. She was a, cheerleader. And she showed a picture of a guy with her cheerleading outfit on. He then knew exactly where she went to school and what times of day she'd be there. And therefore, he made arrangements to be there to try to get a glimpse of her. So luckily, we were able to interdict that as quick as things got moving. And we were able to get a hold of that guy and get him into custody. So Jennifer, are boys ever targeted? Yes, they are. And unfortunately, it is a huge growing population of the human trafficking element. The boys actually begin to start getting groomed typically around the ages of 7 to 9 years of age. And then that goes into their 11, 12, 13 years where most of the boys are active. And again, what that does to a little boy's body is just horrendous. And so by the time that they are, 18, 19, 20, that is a life and trauma levels that are just radical. And unfortunately, like I said, the trauma that these kids are going to have to deal with for the rest of their lives is unimaginable. And so again, it's difficult. And the way that our traffickers have manipulated them now, they actually see them as not being victims. They don't see them as doing anything. It was their choice, and they see themselves as just having made choices in their life. And they don't understand that these traffickers are bad guys. We had another girl from Mesa, for example. She lives up in the country club in Brown area. This guy told her she was going to be a model. He met her at a party. She's 13 years old, and she ends up in California out on Figueroa, which is one of the biggest national tracks in the nation. And we were able to recover her after one of her clients dropped her off at the hospital. And that little girl initially was like, hey, I chose to go there. I was going to be a model. I didn't get, I wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be. So he asked me if I'd do this. And so I told him yes, since he had paid for my bus ticket. And again, it was all a hoax. It was just to get her out there and trap her. And then unfortunately, the mental manipulation game came in. And within a month of talking to her, her story had changed from, hey, it was the most scary, horrendous thing ever, to, hey, you know what? He's not really a bad guy. I kind of chose to do this. This was kind of on me. I really don't even want you guys to go after him because I think this is a bit of a misunderstanding. And that, unfortunately, like I said, that young lady was not part of an abduction where they grabbed these kids and took off with them. That was a 6-month process that these traffickers worked with her. They texted her, told her how beautiful she was, told her, that the problems she was having at home was not her fault, but her dumb parents. And, and basically turned her world upside down to the point where, I mean, even today, as we talk with her and getting her ready for court stuff, she still has issues, whether or not, her trafficker was a bad guy. And, and now that she's 14 years of age, that's something she's going to have to deal with for years. So it's going to be difficult for her. And again, it changes their entire outlook on life. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But like I said, we typically try as much as we can to target the youth, and getting them out of this life. And then like I said, as this big year is coming up, we're pushing a lot of the adult stuff as well, because of the fact that is going to be the main market here in Arizona. Whereas in California, they don't have prosecutors who actually prosecute prostitution crimes against sex buyers or the traffickers, really. And so for their Super Bowl, they actually didn't even look into prostitution stuff. They focus mostly on just the kids. So instead of running, 300-400 tips a day, they were actually focused on 2 to 3 tips a day. And again, California is I would say not a great efficient model of how we should be going after bad guys. But Mesa, Phoenix, Tempe, Scottsdale, Chandler, we are all a part of this. Glendale is coming on now, as well. And so again, we are all pushing as much as we can to get this, get ahead of the curve as much as we can before the Super Bowl and next year's Barrett-Jackson and Waste Management Open kickoff. Because again, just the Waste Management Open every year brings over 500,000 people to the Valley. The Super Bowl is going to do easily double that. And then again, Barrett-Jackson, where you bring in some of the most wealthy individuals in the nation buying cars. There's a huge high propensity for human sex trafficking taking place. Are there any other questions?
Sergeant Boulder, thank you so much for that. I think obviously it's a very real, unfortunate topic that you and your team deal with. Obviously from the Aging and Healthcare Committee, there is a long-standing, I will call it mental health, that goes along with that, in addition to, the traumatic experience in which these individuals go through. So it is unfortunately, a very real situation. It makes me terrified as a parent of young kids, unfortunately, but look, all we can do our best and educate. I think there were some really great comments and questions that came up. I appreciate you taking the time to update the group. If anyone has any further questions or would like to speak further with Sergeant Bolter, feel free to email Sally or myself, and we can figure out a way to get you tied in, or as questions arise, please let us know. So thank you again. Appreciate the time. Very good information. Unfortunately, it is a topic that we need to discuss and continue to discuss. So thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
All right. Michelle is moving on from Cinema's office, so I don't believe she's on today. So we'll kind of skip over congressional updates for the time being. We'll make sure we get that loop back in for the next meeting here. The next item, dementia-friendly Mesa Subcommittee updates. So I will turn it over to Sherry, and you can go from there with your team.
Sorry, that presentation just blows your mind, takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. So on the dementia friendly side of life, Karen Stigenja is out sick today, but as far as next steps for us, we are going to be hosting a kind of a strategic visioning session on Thursday, April 14th at 8:30 in the morning over at our Red Mountain campus, which is at Power and Adobe. And we'll send out some information for anybody who's interested. And I'll also put my email in the chat. But we as an Oakwood Creative Cares has received a grant, which we are super excited about. But part of that grant is to pay for the kind of the administrative coordination of expanding dementia friendly in Mesa. And so on our Zoom call today is Jessica and Leah, who will be heading up some of those efforts to keep us on target and organized and coordinated, which can be kind of a big task. So that has been the downfalls of a lot of the cities who have taken on this initiative, is having those key orchestrators to keep everybody moving in the same direction. So we are super excited to be able to have that taken care of for Mesa. So we hope you'll join us for that meeting. And Becky, you've been doing some sessions for dementia friendly training, right?
Recently just at the summit, but I would love to see us, especially like with people involved here, their groups. I would love for us to start doing more sessions with them, like the police department, fire department, anybody. I'm ready.
The police department has been doing them, and fire, I believe. So they're kind of self-sustaining, doing a great job.
Can I add something about the presentation that we had?
Yeah.
As a business that received the services of Becky being able to come in and share the program with us, we took the initiative to be able to make sure that our staff had a little extra recognition for going through it. So we got these little, little pens, these little kind of awareness of Alzheimer's pens that we attach to our name badges now. So it's just trying to, while dementia friendly Mesa is kind of deciding how they're going to acknowledge it, we are moving forward within our own organization. And again, creating that talking point that when someone is able to say, what is that? It allows us to be able to continue.
Did she freeze for everybody?
And how Mesa is doing that. That on has an in-person.
And that's great. I think that's so great. And as we get out there, I think more places like the summit will pay it a lot more attention.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for the comments. And Lori, I appreciate the feedback and Becky, the work that you're doing and participating. So thank you. Next up, we have Sally with the website contact development.
Yes, so the staff's been working on putting more on our page on our website. So if anybody has anything specific to what you're working on within your own groups or the dementia friendly stuff, if you could send that over to me. Staff's been really good about that. We also have a blog. So if you've got anything that you would like put out on the blog, the stuff that's going on, if you've got any of your own events or trainings, we'd love to share that too. But it's coming along.
Thank you, Sally. I appreciate that. I don't see Todd on. Is there anyone from the technology subcommittee that has any updates?
I'll reach out to Todd and see what's going on.
Okay, thank you, Sally. Next is kind of one we discussed last time, a COVID subcommittee update. I think really from the group, maybe we need to look at modifying this subcommittee group. I think I don't want to say COVID is over. I'm never going to say that, especially in someone in healthcare. And I think Cynthia can understand and respect that as well. But I do think that maybe we need to look at a different topic or something around healthcare. Maybe it's not as specific as COVID, but we do something, within. So maybe next meeting, Sally, we can put on here for a discussion item around other topics, and we could do that. So having said that, I'll defer to any of the clinicians on the line or anyone who has any updates relative to COVID, just to close this one out, I guess, and we can kind of go from there. So Cynthia, Dr. Bishop, anyone else have any updates relative to COVID they feel would be important to share with the group?
Hey, Todd, it's Cindy. I can tell you at Dignity Health, we have had quite the turnaround with COVID, as you know, in your line of business as well. So we actually don't have any COVID patients at Mesa. Most of our hospitals don't have any COVID. Chandler has a couple and St. Joe's has a few. But I will say this, very strangely for this time of year, our ED visits are probably higher than they definitely are higher right now than they ever are this time of year. And our hospitals are all full. Every one of our hospitals are full. So not with COVID and not with flu, just with everything else. So I think the growth in the Valley is definitely contributing to what we're seeing now, and post-pandemic people finally following up with the medical care that they needed all along.
Well, I'm glad to hear that COVID has subsided, I will call it. However, from another standpoint, I'm unfortunately not happy to hear that your hospitals are full, but hopefully those people will be well taken care of. I'm sure they will at Dignity, and they'll receive the best care. So thank you. Lori, you have your hand up.
Yes. I work at a senior living community, and I'm wondering if any of our other clinicians here can speak to this as far as what you might be hearing when masks would be okay to kind of come off, what kind of benchmark, not even just in our community, but even in the schools, what kind of benchmark do you think is a good benchmark to be looking at now, not as a lagging indicator of it already being there, because I feel kind of once it hits the hospitals, it's already there. But I just don't feel like I have a good piece of information to look at for the updated information. I mean, quite honestly, I'm trying to have my daughter be able to take her mask off and for the first time at school. And I don't have, something good to be able to go back to my husband and say, this is the benchmark that we will watch to see if something is spiking back up or down. So I would love to hear some insight from anybody.
Hey, it's Cindy. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Cindy. No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, for Dignity purposes, we actually have modified our masking guidelines already in the hospitals. Now, we still wear them in clinical areas, but we are not wearing them even when in groups, if we're like in an administrative office area or off campus. So if we're in the hospital, in a clinical area where there could potentially be COVID patients, we do wear just an ear loop mask. We kind of originally had been following the CDC guidelines all along, but the CDC is not updating their guidelines to the desire of Common Spirit Health and or Dignity Health. So we have started to modify on our own. So I can understand your point. It's really difficult to know where to look and what to find because we're not seeing a lot of updates coming from the CDC right now.
Yeah, I'll caveat off that, Cindy. We're the same. We've modified ours with our crew members and our teams. When they're providing clinical care, especially with a patient, it's expected they would engage and have a mask. Depending on the patient's condition, depends on the type of mask as well. And but really in the common areas, obviously they're optional. If people wish and feel they wish to wear a mask, they're more than welcome to. But we've been updating ours currently with kind of what we're seeing on a national side from national trends, and really having our medical directors kind of taking the lead on that. The other component that adds complexity to this is the state of emergency the declaration has really ended. So I think really it becomes up to each business or local institution as to how they move forward with those processes. But that's where we're at from the clinical side as well.
It doesn't sound like you are looking at an actual percentage of a number, though. Is that?
I wouldn't say there's a specific number that we're looking at. I think we're looking at trends really in the system as a whole versus saying when this criteria gets below 10%. I think that's a very relative number, because then what do you do when you're at 11? It's like, I think it's kind of one of those market by market situations in our opinion, hence why our medical directors are involved. But really it's I would say you can always use the Department of Health Services as a resource. I'm sure they're available if you want to check in with them. They may have some guidance or recommendations that maybe you could use for your organization. But I just continue to research and see what you can find or what you feel comfortable with.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, moving along. The healthcare workforce will kind of tie in. We just kind of tied into that. Is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss around just healthcare in general?
Let's see if Celine might have anything from the city of Mesa, because I know that they're working on some workforce initiatives and they've got some events coming up.
Yeah, so we have a workshop coming up on the 19th.
Celine, we can't hear you.
Oh. Got my headset on, sorry. We have a workshop coming up on the 19th, actually, as part of our workforce development strategy, and I will drop the link in the chat right now to our page. Give me one moment.
And what is that event?
So this workshop is part of a series that we're rolling out. So we've just kind of put on a webinar, put resources out there for workforce, for talent recruitment. So through here, you can market your positions and develop a pipeline. And there's a bunch of resources on here for that.
Thanks, Celine. See that in the box. Thanks for dropping that in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so if you're struggling to hire or having a hard time finding qualified talent for your businesses, there are some resources here that we've put out. But the next workshop is about retaining your employees, and you'll get some tools through there on how to do that.
Fantastic. I think everyone could use a little bit more workforce these days, and I think it's a great tool that you're putting on or providing. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And if there's any questions, Brian Smith is the project manager that's leading those efforts. So feel free to reach out to him if you have any specific questions.
So I'll kind of take this one and mold it into maybe future discussions and what we possibly would like to see or talk about. If anyone has any ideas or concepts, ideas of speakers, I think it would be good to have kind of an open dialogue here that would really maybe intrigue people or you've thought about. Do we want to have follow-up in certain areas? So I'll kind of open the floor to the group if anyone has any topics or discussions for future meetings. I feel like I'm going to be a professor. I'm going to start calling on people in the front row. Come on, someone give me something.
Okay, you asked for it. You're going to get it.
Thanks, Jeff. I was staring at you. I was going to call on you, so thank you.
Well, I feel really good that my friend and colleague Latrice is on the phone call, because I know that if I say something inappropriate, our compliance officer Latrice will knock it down immediately. But I come back to something I've said before. The idea of collaboration is a really great thing. The officer touched on one of the really bad things that goes on during Super Bowl week. It's the worst thing about Super Bowl anywhere, whatever city hosts it. But there are some really positive things that go on. So I'm wondering, what we might do as a group, or if something's already being planned from the chamber standpoint during Super Bowl week, where we can highlight some of these issues as in a really positive forum, and draw attention to them, and see if we can do a strength by numbers kind of a thing. So it's kind of a from left field question for Sally, I guess, but I think if we identified one or two areas, if we haven't already, if you guys haven't already done it, it's something that we might be able to collaboratively work at. And Super Bowl week is it's really unique in any sporting event, because it goes essentially Monday through Sunday, and some things you don't want to interfere with. There'll be the city of Phoenix will host a party probably on Tuesday night. Some of the bigger things are like on Thursday night. Friday nights or Saturday is the commissioner's thing. So if you want to try to do something, maybe something, I don't know, Sally, I'm going to stop talking now and just ask you, anything in the mix, or is this a crazy idea?
No, I don't think it's crazy at all. I was actually taking some notes and was thinking about talking with Nate about doing some kind of a joint campaign, so we can lead up to it and get in front of it. I don't know what that looks like, if it's a lot of social media and some billboards, or what, but I do think that there is strength in numbers, and it's important for us to take a stand. But we just don't want that here.
So if I were the king, which I am not, I'm not even a prince, I have no authority. I always say I have no authority, but what I would do is I would look at the calendar for the Mesa Amphitheater and the convention hall that week, and possibly bring in a fun event to the amphitheater. I know, Copa, we've done some work with some NFL alumni guys, and one of those guys took over Smokey Robinson's band, the Miracles, and maybe have a concert, and then the convention center could be used as a hall where we could have a lot of people, some vendors, organizations from. Anyway, there's another crazy idea.
No, it's not crazy. And Jeff, it's great because you are now the chair of that subcommittee. It's awesome. It looks like Carissa has a question.
Yeah, hi. I know I'm new here, but yesterday I was at a ribbon cutting for Oak Street Health, and something that the mayor said that I thought maybe we could spend some time on and look at developing ideas on is food insecurity for our seniors. And he was talking about during COVID he went and served at like a food bank, and how many of those people are seniors and are food insecure. And so just trying to come up with ideas or ways that we could help the city and help our seniors so that we can make sure that they have the resources and then the means necessary to get food. I thought it was very interesting because, of course, I've never really thought about that before. And just seeing how we could help as a committee, help them to develop plans to help our seniors.
Chris, I think that's a great point. And Jeff, now you do have authority, so congratulations, good for you.
So I just go to the city and lock it down. Is that okay, Sally? Sally, I'll do it. I would do it.
Careful, compliance is on, Jeff.
I know. Latrice, you didn't hear any of that, did you?
I am hands-free driving, but listening. I'm almost at the office, Jeff.
Hey, Latrice said she loved Rocky and Bullwinkle. And what did Bullwinkle always say at the beginning of the show? Hey, Rocky, why don't you pull a rabbit out of the hat? Oops, wrong hat.
So to kind of caveat off of what Carissa said, I had done something with Sally about a couple of weeks ago, and we had toured the Valley Wise facility and really kind of talked about how do we incorporate potentially looking at other venues and sites to host said committee meetings here. And I think maybe that's up for discussion or something we could think about in the future. If people would be interested in either hosting this committee at their venue or their site, or we can look at maybe something outside of the chamber offices. Our plan is to go back in person. That is a strong recommendation from a lot of folks. We would love to get back in person. I think we're all kind of tired of these Zoom meetings or Skype or whatever you want to call them. And there is valid points to get across in person, we believe. So I guess by show of hands or maybe comments, are people interested in doing that? Would they be interested in attending at other locations? I think that would be beneficial, but I'm just one person. Okay, I'm seeing some hands here. People are interested in that. And then I also think, and Sally, kind of what Carissa had mentioned, and maybe I'm taking this too far, but is there a time that we use one of these meetings and maybe cut it short and do something where we spend our time donating our time and our services, whether it's a food bank that goes towards the aging committee, or do something as a group that is indicative to go back and help the community. So I'm of the mindset of community service. And again, I'm not putting anyone on the spot here, but if there's a group that would be interested in doing that and taking some time to do that as the, aging and healthcare committee, I think that would be something great to provide back. Not just we're a committee that meets monthly, but we participate and do things within the community. So just a thought, I'll throw it out there for the group. I know we just have a couple minutes left, but that would be where my mind's going right now.
I love that. I think it's great. I mean, if any of you were at our event called Mesa House Heart in February, we talked about the fact that, yes, we're a chamber of commerce, but I think personally we're more of a chamber of community because we have such a strong nonprofit group within the chamber, and our community is made up of some great nonprofits that do wonderful work for those in need. So I'm all about that. If we could do that, even maybe maybe it's quarterly or maybe it's a couple times a year or something that we do some give backs. I think that's important.
Todd, I would echo that sentiment. I know I'm new here as well, but I love giving back to the community, and it just, not only does it help the community, it helps when you give, you receive more than when you truly give. That's why I like giving. To me, it's more of a selfish thing. So also to what you were saying about hosting meetings in person, Care Access is, we do have a large space and we would be very interested in hosting any in-person meetings. So.
Wonderful. I appreciate that,
Sure.
Vicki. And regardless if you're new here, seasoned, I won't call anyone old, seasoned, experienced. Look, all comments are valued and inputted. So thank you. We want this to be a very open space, and that's the way we're going to learn and grow. So appreciate it. As I mentioned, the plan is to meet in person for our next meeting that's scheduled for May 5th. Let's plan on that one being at the Mesa Chamber. And then what we can do at that one, Sally, is maybe caveat off of that and find out other locations. So Vicki, if you have a location, and then we can kind of put some on a paper or put some down and figure out to select how we could best do that. Because I think that would be great. I think it gives an opportunity for our businesses on here to showcase their space, get people out to visit their locations as well. And also, we know how it goes sometimes when you're just away from a different space, it prompts discussion. So I appreciate everyone's time, and it looks like we're cutting it short by about 3 minutes. So I think we did a good job staying on track, being mindful of everyone's time. And other than that, Yes, go ahead, Greg.
Greg Sanchez, is there an email list that I can get on for this group?
You're on it now.
Okay. And then Humana has a location as well, a very good size meeting room on the corner of Recker and McKellips.
Wonderful. Appreciate that. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Any other comments before we close out? I want to give everyone an opportunity if they had any other questions or thoughts.
I just wrote down 4 names that said they wanted to be on that little committee. So I don't have contact, but Sally does. So I got their names right here, Sally. We have a team now, Sally. We have a team.
That's right. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your Thursday, great rest of your week, and we will see you hopefully all in person on the 5th.
Yeah, thanks again, Sergeant Bolter.
Stay connected to Mesa Chamber social media, email newsletters, Monday morning message, and mesachamber.org to always know what's happening at your Mesa Chamber.